bring in Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat of California and a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He's also a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sheinelle.
There are reports this morning that jets are already taking off again from the same airfield targeted by the U.S. on Thursday. So if the base is still operational, then what was the point in your opinion? Or was it just sending the message that the U.S. will act? Was that enough?
Well, thank you for that question. And let me first say that what Assad did with chemical weapons was horrific. But our Constitution doesn't allow the president to just engage in acts of war without approval of Congress. And when he did this strike, it turns out that it did very little. As you said, now there's operations from the very base we just struck a couple of days ago. It's not clear to me why we launched 59 cruise missiles, and there's still no strategy in Syria.
So then what else could the president have done, in your opinion?
He should have come to Congress and presented a strategy as to what we're doing in Syria, how long we're going to be there, who are we supporting, and what our goals are. He did none of that. Instead, he did exactly what he said he wasn't going to do when he campaigned, which is to be America first and take us out of foreign wars. Instead, he just entangled us further into the Middle East.
Let me take this a step further. Last night, you offered one theory as to why President Trump decided to carry out this strike. I want to play a bit of that now. Let's listen.
If you're facing possible collusion with Putin, you might just want to distract people.
Yeah. So you're pretty big distraction.
I'm just asking.
It might be. We don't know. I've learned to not predict Donald Trump.
Do you really think he'd go that far to maybe start an entirely, whole new military conflict just to distract from the Russia investigation?
Anything is possible with this president and this White House. The Russian collusion investigation is going forward. We're not going to be distracted by any other issues. This is the most important issue of the day, because if there was collusion last year, then that affects the legitimacy of this administration.
What's your response to his argument that, that President Obama didn't do anything, he didn't need congressional authorization for these strikes? What would you say?
Well, the reason Obama didn't do anything is because Obama was following the Constitution. Our Constitution does not allow the president to engage in acts of war without congressional authorization, and Congress has only authorized two types of conflicts that the president can engage in: go after terrorists with military force and deal with the threat of Iraq. Attacking Syria, a country that did not attack the U.S., was not authorized. What the president did was illegal.
So with that said, then, if the president, let's say he does this again, he carries out military action without consulting Congress, what will you do? What options do you have?
Unfortunately, the Republicans do control Congress. America gets a vote in a year and a half, and the voters can decide if they like what's going on. But it's very important that our president, first of all, tell us what his strategy is in Syria. Why are we even there, taking sides in a civil war halfway around the world and putting our troops at risk?
If the president would have waited, let's just say, goodness forbid, Assad did it again, and we see these, honestly heart-wrenching pictures of these children. You saw this video, limp. What would you say he should do?
Those images were horrific, but let's keep in mind, just a week ago, the Trump administration was okay with keeping Assad in power, even though they knew he had killed over 100,000 civilians and used chemical weapons in the past. Not clear what changed, and this kind of whiplash foreign policy weakens the United States, causes the American public to not know what the president's principles are, and it reduces the credibility of the words that our chief diplomat, Rex Tillerson, says.
It's interesting. We played a clip from your colleague, Tulsi Gabbard. She's not convinced it was Assad. What do you think about that?
Right. I trust our intelligence agencies, and I trust their words that Assad did this, especially because Assad did do this in the past. But keep in mind, a lot of people have died in Syria and continue to die because of tanks, of bullets, of famine, and the Trump administration seems totally fine with that, except with chemical weapons. So, again, what is the purpose of launching all these cruise missiles if we're only going to do it one time, and then the air base in Syria continues to operate? I really don't understand the strategy that this administration is engaging in.
Well, I will say it's interesting. A lot of people have said, this sends a message, even to places like, North Korea. In fact, our NBC investigative team is reporting today that the National Security Council offered the president several options for dealing with North Korea, including putting nukes in South Korea or assassinating Kim Jong-un. Congressman, how do you react to that? It's a scary time.
This is exactly the wrong message to send because North Korea has nuclear weapons. They can rain down artillery on South Korea and kill millions of people. We do not want to use military force against North Korea if we don't have to. We need to use diplomacy, and this is exactly the wrong message for the administration to send, that we might just attack North Korea. We don't want that message to be sent.
And before I lose you, can you give me your take on the meeting with China, with Xi? With Xi, I should say, excuse me.
I am pleased that there was no bad news out of that meeting. I also note that Trump had no victories, because if he did, he would have announced it. So the status quo remains, and I am okay with that.
Really quickly, earlier this week, you signed on to a letter demanding Devin Nunes recuse himself from the Russia investigation. Now that he has, what's next?
I've been calling for his resignation as chairman of the Intelligence Committee, because what he did was he tried to mislead the American people. He went to the White House, got documents from the White House, and the very next day he holds a press conference saying he got these secret documents and he needed to go brief the White House about them. Well, these were exactly the same documents the White House gave him. He was intentionally trying to trick the American people. He's lost credibility. He needs to resign his chairmanship. You
know, it's interesting because, I mentioned to one of our producers this time last week, this is all we were talking about was this whole, the connections with Russia and what's going on behind the scenes. And now with this airstrike, it almost seems like the conversation has shifted just a bit. Is that what you're do here? To bring it back full circle?
I cannot tell what the motivations are of our president. I do know that Russia still remains the biggest issue, the collusion investigation, and that is going forward. And I've called for a special prosecutor to oversee the investigation as well.
Squeezed in a lot of topics on this Saturday. Congressman Ted Lieu.